So somewhere right now, a guy is screaming at his TV because his team lost by 1 seat in a county he can't find on a map, and he genuinely thinks his vote mattered that much. It didn't. None of them really do. Not the way you think. And that's not even the wild part. The wild part is this. Every election you've ever cared about, every speech, every debate, every campaign ad that ruined your YouTube experience for 6 months, all of it could have been replaced by 2 people doing rock, paper, scissors in a parking lot. Same result. Less yelling. For real bro here, where we say what no one else will. Now stay with me because I'm not saying elections are pointless. I'm saying something way more uncomfortable than that. What if the actual decision-making process barely matters compared to what happens after? And we've been obsessing over the wrong 15 minutes this entire time. Part 1. The coin flip nobody admits to. Here's something nobody tells you about close elections. A huge chunk of them, the ones decided by a few hundred votes in one district, are basically statistical coin flips. Not metaphorically, actually. The margin of error in counting millions of paper ballots and machine inputs is often bigger than the actual margin of victory. So in a real, documented, boring statistical sense, some elections that changed entire countries were closer to random than anyone wants to admit out loud. Think about that for 1 second. You watched the news coverage. You saw the maps turn red or blue like a slow-motion crime scene. You heard too close to call repeated by a panicked anchor 40 separate times, and underneath all that drama was something closer to flipping a coin with extra paperwork. We just dressed up the coin flip in a suit and gave it a podium. Here's where it gets funnier and a little sadder at the same time. Studies on actual rock, paper, scissors tournaments, the real competitive ones, people fly out for these, show that human choices in that game aren't random either. People subconsciously repeat winning moves and switch after losing ones. So weirdly, rock, paper, scissors might actually be more predictable than a tight election, because at least psychology has patterns. Voters don't follow patterns. Voters follow vibes, gas prices, and whatever their cousin posted that morning. So picture this. 2 final candidates. Years of campaigning. Billions of dollars. Families torn apart at Thanksgiving over yard signs. And the actual outcome lands somewhere between a coin flip and a mood swing. That changes how you watch the next election, doesn't it? Things are about to become much bigger than you expected. Part 2. Why do you need the drama anyway? Okay, so if the outcome is basically random in close races, why do we even bother with the whole circus? Why not just skip to rock, paper, scissors and save everyone the ad spend? Because here's the part where elections actually do something rock, paper, scissors never could. The process itself is the product, not the result. The arguing, the debating, the door-knocking, the awkward town halls where someone always asks a question that's actually just a complaint about their own street. All of that forces a society to publicly negotiate what it wants. You don't get that from 2 fists in a parking lot. This is the part that feels good to admit. Elections work as a pressure release valve. People get to yell into a microphone called a ballot instead of doing something worse. Entire countries have avoided actual violence because angry people had a structured place to be angry. That's genuinely impressive when you think about it. Democracy is basically humanity's way of saying, let's argue really loudly instead of stabbing each other. And somehow that mostly works. So far, this sounds like good news. The chaos has a purpose. The drama earns its keep. But here's the quiet problem nobody likes pointing at. If the outcome is partly random, and the process is mostly theater for emotional release, then a huge amount of energy, money, and personal relationships get sacrificed for something that functions less like decision-making and more like a very expensive, very public stress ball. The thing helping you may also be hurting you. Part 3. The friendship casualty list. You know what's actually hilarious in the worst way? People will block a childhood friend over a political post, but they couldn't tell you one specific policy difference if you asked them right now. Try it. Ask someone why they unfollowed their cousin. Half the time it's because of what he posted, and when you ask what exactly was posted, there's a long pause and a vague hand gesture. We've turned elections, something with a coin flip level of randomness in close races, into the ultimate friendship litmus test. We sacrifice actual relationships for a system that, even when it works perfectly, is still just organized guessing dressed up in flags and balloons. Here's an uncomfortable human observation. People don't actually want to be convinced. They want to be confirmed. Every debate you've ever watched, nobody walks away going, well, I've changed my mind. People watch debates the same way they watch a boxing match they already bet on. They're not evaluating, they're cheering. That's not democracy, that's fantasy football with worse outcomes. And this is where the prediction gets flipped. You'd expect that more information, more debates, more coverage would make people smarter voters. Instead, more exposure usually just makes people more confident in whatever they already believed walking in. The information doesn't change minds. It just gives people better ammunition for arguments they were already going to have at dinner. So now you're trapped inside a system you trusted to be rational, that runs partly on randomness, fueled by emotional confirmation, costing you actual friendships, for a result that two strangers in a parking lot could have produced for free. You are now trapped inside something you thought you wanted. Part 4. The part where we admit the game was never fair anyway. Here's where it gets worse before it gets better, so stick with me. Rock, paper, scissors, despite being a joke comparison, this whole video is actually a perfectly fair game. Every option has an equal chance against every other option. Rock beats scissors, scissors beats paper, paper beats rock. Full stop, no exceptions, no fine print. Elections are nothing like that, and we just don't say it out loud very often. Some votes count more depending on where you happen to live. Some districts get drawn on purpose to make certain outcomes nearly guaranteed before a single vote is cast. So the thing we use to justify the entire emotional and financial cost of democracy, the idea that it's the fair option compared to randomness, isn't even the fair one. The actual game of rock, paper, scissors has cleaner odds than most real ballots. That's the uncomfortable realization sitting in the room nobody wants to acknowledge. We didn't choose elections because they're more fair than chance. We chose them because they let us pretend we're in control of chance. There's a difference, and it's a big one. Here's the self-sabotage part, the part that's honestly kind of funny if you don't think about it too hard. The more we try to fix the fairness problem with new rules, new committees, new oversight boards, the more complicated and exploitable the whole system gets. We keep adding rooms onto a house that was already a little crooked, and at some point you've got a mansion built on a foundation the size of a parking lot. So now ask yourself the real question. If the system isn't actually fairer than chance, and the outcome in tight races is basically random anyway, what exactly are we protecting when we say we're protecting democracy? There is one final truth nobody saw coming. Part 5. The game was never about winning. Here's the theory. Reveal. The thing this entire video has secretly been circling around the whole time. Elections were never really about picking the correct leader. They were about giving millions of people a shared ritual where they feel like their voice exists in a world that mostly ignores individual voices completely. That's it. That's the real function. Not accuracy. Not fairness. Participation theater with real consequences attached. And once you see it that way, the coin flip stops being depressing and starts being kind of beautiful in a messed up way. The randomness was never the bug. The randomness was always going to be there no matter what system humans invented. Because large groups of unpredictable people producing a predictable outcome was never realistic to begin with. The real achievement isn't that elections eliminate randomness. The real achievement is that they convinced billions of people to accept randomness peacefully instead of violently. That's actually wild when you say it plainly. Remember that guy from the very beginning screaming at his TV over one county he can't find on a map? He's not actually mad about the county. He's mad because some tiny part of him understands his voice is one drop in an ocean. And the system needed him to forget that for a few hours so he wouldn't go do something worse than yell at a screen. The yelling is the safety valve working exactly as designed. So, no. Your vote in a landslide race doesn't swing the outcome any more than your one rock, paper, scissors throw decides a tournament with 10,000 players. But the parking lot version was never going to give millions of strangers a reason to believe their existence registers on a national scale. The drama, the ads, the debates, the unfollowed cousins. That was never really about choosing a winner. It was about making chance feel like consent. Damn. That changes everything, doesn't it? So which is it for you? Is democracy the most elegant trick humanity ever pulled on itself? Or is it just a really long, really expensive game of rock, paper, scissors with better marketing? Tell me in the comments. And if you genuinely think your specific vote single-handedly changed a national outcome, I need the county name and a 5-minute reenactment. Sarcasm, fully loaded. For real bro out. We'll pretend the algorithm doesn't run on the same chaotic randomness as everything else we just talked about. Subscribe before it forgets we exist.